So today's episode is number 8, and the question will be, who are the Dark Ones? The Dark Ones and their agents can be anyone. The trials and tribulations that each of us experience as we seek answers to our questions often takes us in many different directions. Ultimately, it's all to slow us down from finding our way home. Basically, they want to stop us before this lifetime is concluded. Many, if not all, of these distractions are caused by the Dark Ones and their agents. As I've said many times before, our spiritual journey is all about the destination, our final goal of reaching home in heaven. This goal is what we must always remain focused on and never focus all of our energy on these distractions. We must deal with these daily distractions, but try not to focus on them. Whenever someone tells you that it's the journey and not the destination, you should consider that this person is either a Dark One or one of their agents, or at least a compromised soul who is listening to and believing the brainwashing. These are what we call perfectly possessed people. My trial and tribulations began early in my life, right after I started school. My memories of childhood are filled with horrible memories of bullies that would physically and mentally beat me daily while either on my way to or from school. And at school, bad people come in all age groups. The Dark Ones don't just happen as adults. The Dark Ones come into this world and immediately begin their training right at school level. Violence in our school has always been a serious problem that the authorities have never done anything about, because basically they're protecting the next generation of Dark Ones. Bad people are not good people who have gone rogue one day. These evildoers are groomed right from the beginning, right from kindergarten. These little evil ones learn very early how to rule others. As the neighborhood bully who begins their reign of terror in the playground and classroom to later in life become the corrupt authority figures we so often find in religion, education, law, politics, and industry. In most cases, these are the people that we entrust with the care of our weaker members of society. What I find surprising is how shocked and disbelief that the mundane society becomes when children murder other children. Just spend any time in school or in a playground, and you'll soon witness evil in its purest form. There is no hidden agenda, just an absolute evil that wants to gain control over another human, whether it be through verbal threat or actually through the use of physical violence. I believe most child violence is overlooked because their small bodies cannot they can't really inflict lasting damage to their victim in most cases, most incidences. Let's use, unlike the geriatric violence that's going on, that they're calling old and dangerous. Senior violence is on the rise in our old age homes, and the authorities are calling it, and they're solely blaming it on dementia. But it's just another stall tactic to slow us down from dealing with the problem of violence runs rampant through our society, and it begins with children. It's an addictive poison that the Dark Ones use on the mundane population, because the mundane population is fascinated with violence. Western society is saturated with violence. Right from day one, children cartoons are averaging 25 to 50 violent acts per hour. Primetime television, 8 to 12 acts per hour. Just turn on TV and you'll watch people chopping people up and putting them in blenders and then sucking back their blood and body parts. The music industry, the entertainment industry are frequently laced with violent themes and actions. They leave nothing to the imagination anymore. It's all put right out there, and it's all accepted as being okay. Society only takes notice of violence in the school. I think what's happened is that the weapons have become easier to handle. These weak, dark ones, these little ones, are able to handle these what they call hot weapons because they're lighter and they've got smaller handles and they're easier to manipulate. They've been designed basically for women to be able to handle, and it's like a good example is hand tools, like a hand drill. It's been scaled down for the female to work in construction. It's got a smaller hand grip. It's made lighter so that people with smaller hands, weaker arms, are able to use them safely. Well, this is the same thing with firearms. Everything is becoming smaller, lighter, and easier to handle. So it shouldn't be such a shock that actually children now, smaller children, male teenagers, can handle these weapons with ease. So this smaller design, I believe that the brainwashing of our youth into believing it's okay to use physical and verbal abuse constantly to take their fellow students' liberties away has become a way of life. It's saturated all the way through, and then these people become our authority figures. So, as you notice, go to any high school and you'll see 4 or 5 police cars sitting in front of them. And yet the police aren't policing the schools, but there they are every day. I pass 2 high schools every day, and every day there's 4 at each. So, what the hell's going on? But children are not born violent. What a joke. We've all been given the right to self-determination, a gift bestowed upon us by God. It's through the subversion and trickery that the dark ones continue to fool us into surrendering our gift from God. This is what in turn empowers these bullies, these monsters, and diminishes us a little more each day. We either submit to their will or suffer the consequences. We either hand over all of our defenses that protect us from this evil. I'd look at it this way. Whenever someone demands you submit to their will, you should seriously consider that you are dealing with a dark one. Forget about their agents or the perfectly possessed. We have to start defining the dark ones as being just bad people. Could be your mother, could be your father, could be anybody. The sooner you understand that this is not a world of light, as many would have you believe. This is a world governed by total darkness. This is the world of the fallen ones. Nobody here is an innocent. Not man, woman, or child. This is not a piece of heaven. This is a slice of the darkest place in hell. Part of any spiritual quest will involve searching out good people like yourself, finding your people of like mind. They're going to be found in the least expected places. So don't necessarily expect to find them in your family. Conspiracy theorists, outcasts, loners, usually very small groups, are where you're going to find fellow seekers. No matter what it promises to be, it's going to be a very difficult path to follow. Reality, at least for me, is easier to understand all these decades of searching for the truth. It's easier now to be able to assign blame properly, to identify the enemy. I went through a period where I couldn't identify who the enemy was. Everybody. Every time I tried to pick a side, left of center, right of center, I kept running into people who were bent, stilted, weird. Now we've gone from the establishment, the underground was anti-establishment. Well, now they're the establishment. People like me who used to be the establishment, who followed the law of God and man, are now anti-establishment. Think about that one. People who were bombing and killing people in the 60s are now the establishment. And they're now dictating to us that we should give up all of our protection. These were the ones that were supposedly fighting against the establishment. And now we find out they are the establishment. They fooled us at every turn. Now we're so twisted up, we don't even know who the good guy is anymore. Now we have to find them within small groups. We're perpetual hostages. So how do we break out of this prison? It's a conscious choice to find the faith that what God has given us, no other has the right to take away from us. It's as simple as never forgiving and never forgetting. To never forget their transgressions against us. But not really against us. We have to apply it and say it's against God. This moves the notion of karmic debt from ourselves to an entirely new arena and stops our debt from accumulating any further. We need to stop the karmic debt and the trickery of bringing us back to another lifetime. For the first time in history, technology now ensures the Dark One's total victory. Our every movement can be monitored, logged, and retrieved at a moment's notice to control us. Even so, this doesn't mean that we're stuck here forever. Again, the goal is to return to heaven, not to stay, not to come back, to get to heaven. And we have to do this while we're still alive. We can't do this when we're traversing the other side. We must prepare and train our mind in the information that we will need as we cross over. We must know to follow the gold light of God and not the white light of the fallen ones, or we find ourselves right back in another lifetime. It's time to release ourselves from these negative influences, which in many cases is our need to be involved with the carriage of judgment. We need to know the outcome of others, whether it's good or bad. Well, it's time to stop this. We need to, this is what keeps us trapped here forever. We need to disconnect from everyone and everything. This is why a spiritual path is very lonely. We are reluctant warriors of a war that we're not really responsible for, but we're here and we are part of it. And our life mission is to rediscover our true identity through the identifying and uncovering the brainwashing lies that we have accepted as truth. By discovering your own truth, you move yourself back onto the right path to the ultimate goal of returning home. The angelic rebellion is about angels falling from grace. Our spiritual journey is about helping us to discover that we are part of the fallen ones, that it is our responsibility. We must accept the responsibility for the reality that we now experience. It's got nothing to do with God. We should think of our experiences, all of these distractions that that are put in our path, as ways to discover how to break free from the karmic debt and reincarnation cycle that keeps us trapped here. We must be vigilant, be wary of people that blame God. For example, for things like, why does God make children sick? Well, there's a clue right there. God doesn't make children sick. Take it upon yourself to start identifying the dark ones around you. These are the perfectly possessed. They don't know it in many cases. Some do, but some don't. They just bought into the TV advertisement, the mainstream media, It's unfortunate, but we have to take back our authority, or in other words, accepting our responsibility for the mess that we find ourselves in, or as I call it in Book 3, authority taken. It's where we understand that God is supreme and man is not. Our salvation will take place when we discover that we have been co-authors of this rebellion all along, and everything that has conspired since. So I wish to thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to your comments and questions. So until the next time, my very best.